Did anybody die? That's what this could come down to with all these lawsuits that are piling up now against Volkswagen on this software, implant, if you will, in 11 million vehicles that disguised its emissions release. We're going to go to two lawyers on whether that case can be made that people actually had died as a result of this, Randy Zellen and Seth Berenzweig. What do you think, Randy? Is there, you have to prove that, right?
Legally, you do, but in reality, you really don't. Because what's going to happen here, Volkswagen is radioactive. They have zero credibility. It has been pretty well established that this was not a mistake. This was an out-and-out lie. If I'm Volkswagen, I want to put this in my rearview mirror. I don't want to test people coming forward saying that they got sick as a result of the diesel emissions. I want to get rid of these things. Right or wrong, legality has zero to do with it.
All right. Well, Seth, the question is, I mean, in this case, I don't know if people have died, but I know it would be very, very tough to prove. It's not like a GM case with a faulty switch where 124 people died as a result of that we know of to date. Here, it's a little more slippery, isn't it?
It is, and I think that that's the problem. I agree that Volkswagen is radioactive, and it's a very bad corporate actor, but the problem on a case of this issue is that the burden of evidence in this case cannot be met. In this kind of a case, you have to have an element of causation that the courts are going to require for you to be able to come in and win on that issue.
But how would you prove death? I mean, you'd have to prove, in this case, Randy, that this person sued or their family sued because they're convinced, having driven in one of these cars, they died as a result of the emissions.
And of course, I agree with Seth, but again, it's a very low burden. In other words, there is a question of law. And as a plaintiff, you have to survive Volkswagen's motion to dismiss. So Volkswagen will move to dismiss saying, there's no causation, you can't prove anything. All the plaintiff has to do is show some plausible claim, and the evidence is viewed in a light most favorable to the plaintiff. So, for example, if my father got sick and I owned a Volkswagen with a diesel engine, if I'm Volkswagen, do I really want to test that? If my kid had lung issues and now those lung issues have been exacerbated?
But do you really want to multiply that times potentially 11 million complaints?
But the problem is that, and I agree with you on day one, that's on a motion to dismiss. That's the legal standard. The problem is that at that point, no pun intended, the car stalls, because once you state that cause of action, you have to actually back it up with evidence, and there's no gas in that tank. In order to be able to have the causation element, you have to be able to trace emissions from a Volkswagen car that goes into the lung of the victim, and that's going to be very difficult. Look, I think there's a legal mechanism that slams Volkswagen in this case, and it's not on the mechanism and the issue that we're talking about here. The Justice Department is going to come down very hard on Volkswagen, and the criminal division is looking at this, and I think that you may even be looking at an indictment. So they're not going to get a pass, but it's not going to be in terms of this civil suit.
Real quick.
They want this in their rearview mirror. Put it behind them, move forward.
But not a multi-billion-dollar settlement.
Can't do it. Well, you do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. Guys, thank you both very, very much.